Hinefrasi. Ginemastakula gihanasoku. Himastakulum gi corazonhu. Zani masfigu naninya senyahu. Hua frasim maisadzu. Parabai protehi zanhu defendi. Ihenengi.
Ihenengi.
Ikotura.
Ikutura.
Ilingwahi.
Ilingwahi.
Iairi.
Iairi.
Ihanam.
Ihanam. Sanitano Chamorru.
Iren shaku teretsu ginazua stata. Estio fitma gihilu biblia. Zani benderahu. Ibenderan Guahan.
Buenas Zanhafade. Welcome to the third installment of Hestorian Isla, Season 5. I'm Jolene Toves, your host. Polly Eric Forbes will return again with his annual Chamorro Word of the Week, and Senora Rita NAUTA of Guampedia.com will take us into the island's U.S. Naval and World War II. LINGUA'HI, the language, is the focus of this year's MES Chamorro series. We continue in this episode to discuss the education of the Chamorro language to our school children, with the minds behind the Guam Department of Education's Chamorro Studies Division. Stay right there as Historian Islata continues with the influences on the Chamorro language after this quick break. Welcome back. I am Jolene Toves, your host. Last month, Guampedia.com released a book that focuses on the women in Guam's history. Senora Rita NAUTA of Guampedia will now share with us the story of 3 notable women who have helped shape the history of Guam during the naval and the World War II eras.
In ancient times, Chamorro society was matrilineal, whereby land and clan resources were passed through the mother's line of inheritance. Responsibility and power was shared between men and women, particularly between brothers and sisters. With the introduction of Western culture and Christianity, the power of women was diminished, but women continued to maintain their roles as heads of households and as community organizers. Hafaday, Guahu si Rita Pangolina NAUTA of Guampedia.com, an affiliate program of UOG's Micronesian Area Research Center. Guampedia has written 28 women's stories back into Guam's history on our website and in our new book, FAMALAO'AN GUAHAN, Women in Guam History. In this episode, we explore 2 periods in our Manyaina's journey, Ihin and NAUTA. After more than 300 years under the Spanish flag, the winds of change, Vanataguidzan Iha'ani, once again reached our shores, raising a new flag and politically separating Guam from the rest of the Marianas, I Colonisan Americano, the American colonization of Guam. The second period thrust our Manyaina into a war not of their making, World War II and the Japanese occupation. The U.S. Navy became the new colonial administrators on Guam at the end of the Spanish-American War in 1898 until 1941. New construction and a wage economy brought Guam into the modern world, while the Chamorro people struggled to maintain their cultural identity and secure their rights under numerous naval governors. In 1907, the Navy began the Native Nurses Program to provide Chamorro midwives, pateras, with Western medical instruction. The program was promoted as an opportunity for Chamorro women to learn new skills, help others in need, and establish an income to support their families in the new military economic model. But the Navy struggled to attract Chamorro women to the program due to different cultural norms and strained relations between Americans and Guam residents. The nursing program required women to leave their homes to board at the Naval Hospital and work alongside American men. In those days, unmarried Chamorro women required a chaperone while away from their homes. In 1914, Maria Anderson Roberto pioneered Guam's Native Nurses Program as its first chaperone. Her role was crucial to the success of the program and the training of Chamorro women as nurses. Maria's position in the community and fluency in Chamorro and English helped Chamorro women join the nursing workforce. Tragically, Maria contracted leprosy in 1924. The following year, Maria was one of the fortunate Chamorros forced by the U.S. Navy to leave Guam for a leper colony in Culion Island, Philippines. Her fate, like the others, has remained shrouded in mystery. In the accounts written about Maria, little is said regarding her contraction of leprosy. Instead, she is written about as an intelligent, dignified, and beautiful woman who made it possible for two cultures to better interact with one another to take care of those in need. Unlike Maria's story that was gleaned from written accounts, the following women's stories were from their own accounts when Japanese imperial forces occupied Guam from December 10, 1941 to August 10, 1944. Prior to the invasion, the American government sent their own families back to the U.S., leaving the Chamorros and a handful of American military personnel to defend the island. The remaining military and other Americans living on Guam were captured by the Japanese and sent to prisoner of war camps in Japan. The Chamorros endured harsh treatment at the hands of the Japanese, but showed bravery, loyalty, and great faith as the war waged on around them. Ignacia Bordalio Butler, an entrepreneur with her husband Chester Butler, is also remembered for her bravery and strength during the war. Ignacia's husband became a prisoner of war, but she continued to operate the business with her son James. When Japanese soldiers asked her to make Coca-Cola, she told them she had run out of syrup, although in reality, she had plenty hidden in her warehouse. Ignacia supported the operators of secret radios to help Chamorros stay in tune with American news reports of the war. She was physically abused and beaten. The Butlers' businesses turned to ruins from the American bombardment of Hagåtña in 1944. After wartime, Ignacia quietly helped others with interest-free loans so that they too could pick up and start over again. At the age of 14, Beatriz Paredo Flores Elmsley was also a survivor of the Japanese occupation. She provided powerful testimony for the Guam War Reparations Commission, speaking of the atrocities suffered by Chamorros. Beatriz described being held in a tunnel just below San Ramon Hill with other Chamorros accused of helping an American soldier who hid on Guam throughout the occupation. In her testimony before the U.S. Congress in 1993, Beatriz recounted how after being questioned, the officer pushed her down and hit the back of her neck with his bayonet. The gash was 4 inches deep. Beatriz awoke and found herself buried with the bodies of those executed. She crawled out of the dirt grave and found Juan Cabrera, who had also survived the attempted execution. Like other war survivors, Beatriz focused on surviving the devastating aftermath and reconstruction of Guam. Her closing words of her 1993 testimony, quote, "Recognize us, please. We are American," captures the conflicted feelings of so many survivors, grateful for the American liberation, loyal to the American nation, but wanting to be acknowledged for their suffering and sacrifice. Viva to our Mañana, who were forced to endure a war not of their making. May their suffering and sacrifice be recognized and never forgotten. Dankulu Nasusus Maasi.
If you would like to purchase a copy of FAMALAO'AN GUAHAN, stop by the Guampedia office at UOG's Dean Circle, house number 3, or get it on their website at guampedia.com. Be sure to catch next Monday's episode for a look at our leading women during the post-World War II era. Let's find out now how and who has influenced the Chamorro language with the administrator of the Guam Department of Education's Chamorro Study Division, Senora Rufina Mendiola. Buenas Zenhafade, Guahusi Jolene Tovis, and welcome to Hestorian Islata. With me here at the beautiful Guam Museum, which is led by the Department of Chamorro Affairs, is Senora Rufina Mendiola. And today we are talking about influences on the Chamorro language. As you are well aware, we have had many different cultures come to our island, and as they come, they leave traces of their language within our own language. Let's start off by talking about the Spanish influence on the Chamorro language.
Sure, thank you so much.
You're
and let
welcome.
me tell you, this place right now that we're at has all the influences. So I hope that our people of Guam, Islata, will come here and see the difference. But the Spaniards, yeah, when they came to Guam, you know, we have our own Chamorro people that were here before Magellan actually came to Guam. We already have established our own people, our Sainas. But when the Spaniards came to Guam, they brought their language, they brought everything with them, their clothing. They want us to look like them, to dress how they want us to dress, and to speak their language. And so a lot of our ancestors, I guess they learn the language so well that they speak it. They speak Spaniards, and we have similarity. I remember teaching for the first time. I knew how to count because I took Spanish 1 in the middle school. So I knew my numbers in Spanish, and I didn't know that was a Chamorro also. So definitely it has an impact, influence for myself, because I was speaking Spanish. You know, I was learning how to count and how to greet in Spanish. But then that will not, again, take me away from my Chamorro, my Ifinota Chamorro. It's very important that I keep that alive within myself, and I perpetuate it, my family, and the generations to come. So the Spaniards did so great influence to the island of Guam in every form, in our religion, in the Novena book, you know. Even today, you can still see the written words in our songs in the church. But definitely what we are trying to do is, and I've seen some of the church, they have changed and used the Chamorro. So that's a movement that we're getting better at today.
All right. Now, another big cultural influence on Guam is the Filipino language. You'll find some of our words are extremely similar to words spoken in the Filipino languages. Can you share with us the influences that they have had?
Yeah, and that's because the Spaniards, after they came to Guam, they went to the Philippines. So one word that's similar is like medzas. Medzas is Spanish, it's Chamorro, and it's Filipino. La masa, la mesa, for table, and also in Filipino. So yeah, and even our food, you know, it has a great influence for our Chamorro when the Filipinos came to Guam, and most of the similarities that we have amongst the Filipinos is the clothing, the food, estofado, adobo.
Estofado, yes.
Adobo for the Filipinos, and for us, the estofado, and it's the same ingredients. It's just the different.
It's just a different
The
name.
word is different, but it's known and it's understood that if you say adobo, that's our estofado.
Estofado. Yes, yes, I love estofado. Or Karantika.
Karantika.
Oh, yes. The next language I like to talk about, or the influence on our language, is the Japanese culture. Of course, during the Japanese occupation, they came out here, and a lot of Chamorros during World War II were prohibited from speaking our language. Can you share how that impacted us?
They even opened a school, Japanese school. And they changed the nameplates of our villages to be Japanese. Yeah, I learned that when I was researching, you know, a lot of the influences for Guam, and so, but yet we haven't lost ourselves, because look at where we're at today, right? We're more vibrant today. My father, for example, lived during the war, and he knew how to speak Japanese. That's why he wasn't beheaded. Because he's white, he looks more Spaniards, but because he knew the language of Japanese, he was spared.
Wow.
So we have a lot of our teachers today that are from Sinamay, Luta, Tinian, and Saipan, and the difference is, like, they say a word that is Japanese, and I don't even know. And then I look in our topics dictionary, and it's there, and I say, oh, no, I'm confirming, yeah, but that's Japanese. But, you know, they don't know. They thought it was Chamorro.
Oh wow!
That
How do
is
you?
Japanese.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Like, how do you cipher what is true Chamorro language versus what has been influenced?
Like Kandit. Kandit is our light, right? And Denki is the word that they used in Saipan or Sinamay. And I know, because when I go to Saipan, they say Denki, and I'm saying, what's Denki? Is that a kind of food? But then they say, go turn off the light, okay? So I know Kandit. But now that we know what our words are in our own language, so we use that more. But we don't have, you know, we don't stay away from our influence. It's still there. But the kids now in the classroom, they need to know which one is our Chamorro word and which one there is Japanese influence in Sinamay and Saipan. So we have a lot.
Yes.
I don't even know what's Kabo.
Oh,
And Kabo is curve. And I say, oh, birada. So one night my sister said, Adahi Kabo, because, you know, I'm an origin from Saipan. My mom is from Saipan. My dad is from Guam, but I didn't stay in Saipan. I was raised in Guam. So I thought Kabo is an animal. So I was looking for an animal.
And it was the curve.
And it was the curve. So,
All right,
yeah.
all right. Well, that is so wonderful to see how so many different cultures have influenced our own language. And when we come back, we'll have more about our Chamorro language. Each year, historian Isla is blessed with the continued support of Polly Eric Forbes as he shares with us all his knowledge of the Chamorro language. This year, Polly Eric will fill us with flavor. Let's take a listen on what ma'aksum means.
Every day, all day long, our life is filled with flavor. Today's Chamorro word is one of them. Ma'aksum. Ma'aksum means sour. We usually think of ma'aksum as a bad thing, as when someone has sour grapes. Usually, most people prefer sweet or mamis, especially the children. But as we get older, we start to like ma'aksum, sour, more and more. We even put mamis and ma'aksum together, and we eat sweet and sour pork. While ma'aksum may never be the star flavor in a normal meal, ma'aksum is actually a great way to start a meal. Think of the ma'aksum vinegar we put on salads at the beginning of a meal. Many appetizers are ma'aksum or partly ma'aksum, and when combined with ma'asin or saltiness, ma'aksum is a great way to increase the appetite and make the mouth ready for the main course. Ma'aksum is also a great companion to the main meal. Look how we eat ma'aksum pickled vegetables like daigo or rokyu along with the main dish. Or how we squeeze ma'aksum lemon juice on our fish. We like to save sweetness for the end of a meal, but ma'aksum is a great start of and companion during the meal. So the next time you see someone as ma'aksum as a lemon, tell them, hey, ma'aksum ho. But even ma'aksum has a place in the table of life. Ma'aksum, sour.
Saina Maasi Palieric. Next week, he will share with us the Chamorro word for bitter. Let's continue with our discussion on the influences on the Chamorro language with the Guam Department of Education's Chamorro Studies Division Special Consultant, Senor Jimmy Teria. Welcome back to Historian y Islata. Earlier, we spoke with Senora Rufina Mendiola about the influences other cultures have on the Chamorro language. Now joining me is Senor Jimmy Teria, who's going to speak about the formation of our written language from an oral language. So, Senor, can you share with us our culture, ancient Chamorros, they didn't have a written language. Everything was oral. We passed down our traditions, our language, all orally. So can you share with us the development of our oral language into a written language?
Okay, so we've been speaking Chamorro for roughly about 3,000 to 4,000 years. And when we were in contact, when the first people came across us, the Spanish, they came across us, and so we continued to speak Chamorro. We continued to, or what was considered the native language. And so in a historical context, Chamorro traditionally is an oral language, and even up to this day is still very much it's passed down orally from parents to children, because we don't speak to our children and say spell bottle, right? We don't do that. So in order for them to grasp the language, they have to hear the language, and so traditionally and just in a context where language is natural, it's passed down orally. So then some of the influences with our writing system and how that's developed and how they've recorded our language. So when the Spanish came, they applied their Spanish spelling rules to our Chamorro language. So sometimes you'll see the double L, right? And in Spanish, that's like it's a Z sound, right? And so they were using these kind of their writing systems to categorize Chamorro. And then sometimes there was no real clarification, and so one has to really know what.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Historian y Islata. Join us every Monday in March right here on this station to learn more about Guam and the Marianas, our history, our people, and of course, our Chamorro language. Biba Guam, Biba Marianas, Biba Itano Man Chamoru, Biba Chamoru.